Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do.
It's different from program to team. I mean, if we're talking to parents right now, I would say expect a leap in financial commitment.
Right.
And so gym owners, make sure you're really laying out honestly what those financial commitments look like, not just the monthly fee, but how much is the leotard going to cost? How much are the warm-ups? What do meet fees look like? Some programs have an all-inclusive tuition where everything's rolled in. And so it's kind of, a balanced billing process in that sense. But most gyms are, everything's kind of a la carte. Like if you're going to this meet, you're paying this meet fee. And this is, you grow out of your leotard, you're purchasing another one for $250. I mean, they're not cheap. They're not cheap at all. So, yeah. And parents of recreational gymnasts don't know that because they've been buying the $30 recreational short sleeve leotards forever.
Sure.
They've been engaged in either session-based programming, like 8 or 12 weeks. Some programs run month to month, and they just say, give us a month notice before you quit. Or it's structured so that it can be more of a seasonal sport.
Sure.
In reality, gymnastics is not a seasonal sport. And I know that that's a discussion for another podcast with you, Dave. But it's an annual commitment.
Right.
So I would say that the number 2 thing to expect is an annual commitment. It's not an 8-week program. At the very least, it's an annual commitment. I think. Right. So you're signing up for team, and the expectation is that you follow through with your team commitment for the whole season, for the whole right. year. And I think that that's something that's maybe not always clearly communicated to families, especially when they make that move from program to team. If you want your coaches to be great coaches for your kids, you have to give them space.
Right.
You have to allow them to have their own lives and to set their own boundaries. That's hard for coaches to do.
Yeah.
Coaches take their jobs very seriously. They think of your kids as their own kids. I mean, how often do we say, Dave, oh, my kids, my kids are on vault, my kids. Yeah. It's like we talk about them as if they are our own children that we've birthed ourselves.
Yeah.
Not the case, but it is a wonderful thing. I mean, from a parent perspective, it's like you want your coaches to feel that way about your athlete. Of course you do. You want them to take them under their wings and really, really take care of them while they're in the gym. How much better do you feel dropping your kid off to a program when you know they're being taken care of? So let the coaches do that and then allow them to draw the line, because it's hard. We've all had to figure out how do I separate myself from my group of gymnasts?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I take space for myself to go work out or get some sleep or spend time with my own family? Whatever it may be, it's a challenge on the coach's side too. And so it's really always about partnering with the parents and helping the parents understand that you can, as a coach, feel just as emotional about this gymnast as the parent is.
Right.
And sometimes the parents don't realize that. They're just like, oh, she's just coaching my kid. Well, the kids spend a lot of time in the gym.
I know.
They spend a lot of time with the coaches. So we really take ownership of their success and their mental health and their physical health. And we care about their lives. And so it's easy for coaches to get defensive when the parents come flying in, bombarding with questions with a little bit of a judgy undertone.
Yeah.
And so if that's happening and parents are feeling like the coach is having a little bit of a snarky attitude, it's like, well, let's back it up a few steps and maybe understand where that snarky attitude's coming from. It's coming from a place of like, I care about this person too. I care about your athlete. I'm putting time into this, into your kid too. And there will be maybe some questions that your gymnasts are asking you that you don't have the answers to, because you know, not every parent has a background in gymnastics. I have parents come in all the time that say, I played softball. I don't know what I'm looking at here.
My daughter plays softball someday. I'm screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's like, you know, my son's playing basketball right now. And I mean, he's only 4, but still, he's like so into it. And he's coming home talking to me about all these things. I'm like, that's great, honey. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But, and so I think that it's a situation where you have to be okay as the parent, just knowing what you know and what you don't know, and not being afraid to ask questions and clarify the things that you don't know. If as leaders or coaches, we can understand that, okay, she's going home and every day at the dinner table, she mentions X situation. It's like, okay, well, we can help give the parents kind of some talking points to help with that conversation. Parents will come in and look at me and go, I just don't know what to say to her when she looks at me like this and says this thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, here's a few things you could rattle off. And they're like, oh, thank you. And so armor your parents with some kind of sound bites that you can use at home. And as parents, ask for the help from the people who are doing it every day. It's okay. There's no shame in asking for help. And we don't expect you to know everything about gymnastics. We hope you don't know everything about gymnastics, because that's our job, right?
Yeah, exactly. Contrary to popular belief.
There is no rush. I mean, keep them in compulsories. I understand the excitement of moving to optionals and getting your own floor routine and being able to choose some of your own skills. From the parent standpoint, that's very exciting. The gymnasts work tirelessly for that moment where they move up. Even as a choreographer, I mean, we choreographers, we're like, oh, can't wait to get our hands on her and get that floor routine going. But it's really so important that they have built the strong foundation in the compulsory program before they move to optional gymnastics. They will have a much easier time as a higher level gymnast if they have really conquered each level of compulsory gymnastics. So there's no reason to skip a level. If coaches are mentioning, oh, she could skip this level, she could skip level 4, she could skip level 5. As a parent, you should raise an eyebrow to that. And if your gymnast is staying on a level another year, that's a good thing, in my opinion. I think it's just more time to build the basics. I think that the coach that is okay recognizing that your son or daughter needs another year is really looking out for his or her best interests, both physically and especially emotionally. Oh God. I mean, we've seen it, Dave. We have seen the kids who physically keep it together and emotionally crumble to pieces because we've moved them up too quickly. And we've also seen the other side of the coin where they might have been emotionally ready for it, but their bodies physically broke down because they weren't ready and they were throwing skills they weren't ready to do. So it is not like moving up in school. It's not like we're staying back in second grade because we didn't pass the second grade. It's not apples to apples. So everyone needs to drop that analogy. It really truly is different and separate from moving up every year in grade school. It's about building the foundation, and every gymnast has a different journey in gymnastics, and that journey should be respected by every human involved in the process. And we don't want to get in the way of what their journey is destined to be by just having an opinion about, well, she should move up. She shouldn't move up because it's another year, or because she's another year older, or because her friends are moving up. And it's hard. It's hard when
it is shocking how terrible I was at pommel horse. Like I was awful, terrible. Like literally yeah, it's okay. It's going to come back. We're going to loop into a positive. And I knew this from the beginning, right? But when I was a young gymnast growing up, I was good at floor. I was good at vault. So those were like I felt good about those. I was really excited to compete those events or train those events, but not so much pommel horse. And I have an amazing coach, Tony, who I literally think is the only reason I stayed in the sport. But Tony gave me the same handshake and the same congratulations, or just met me at the event, whether I literally just won regionals on vault, which happened one year for me, for my age group, or whether I fell 5 times at regionals on pommel horse. And I can remember being on pommel horse and just being like, dear God, let this end. I don't want to do more skills. Just let this go over. Right. Oh. And to one point to where the judge, who I've talked about this already, the judge actually like questioned whether I was going to keep going. He was like, do you want to go? Do you want to get back up and do another skill? Like he was just like, do you want it to be over? But Tony always shook my hand the exact same way, whether I had just done a vault that won regionals or whether I literally barely made it through a pommel horse routine. And I think it goes back to your point of unconditional support, regardless of outcome. And I think that's so important for young kids in compulsories, particularly, to have the coach that high fives them or gives them a side hug or shakes their hand or says, let's just move on and let's deal with it. So I think parents need to take that to heart too, that when the meet ends and they come to see you, whether they just literally won everything, when they won the Olympics, or whether they literally just had the worst 2 hours of what they think is their entire life at that moment, same hug, same support, same unconditional, no matter what. And I think people undervalue the impact that it has. I think that in the moment for me, I felt like the world was caving in because I knew everybody was watching me. So, that's what my mind told me, is like everybody in the meet is watching me bomb, let alone there's 17 other kids going, other events. Nobody's watching me. Nobody even knows. But in my mind, it felt like the world was caving in on me sometimes. And I felt like having him to go to was a good little safety bubble to get through that awkward, hard feeling together. And then obviously on the good moments, he was there as well to celebrate. But I think it's so important for parents and gymnasts to be there unconditionally, regardless of whether it's the best moment of their career or literally the worst possible moment in their entire career.
I think one of the hardest parts is that their bodies are changing and they're literally having to relearn their gymnastic skills with a different body.
Yep.
So with more height or more weight or both, comes just a different kind of rotation. Like suddenly their bodies rotate differently. They flip at a different rate. They spin at a different rate.
That low bar is a lot closer.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Suddenly they're getting those heels on the low bar. And it's incredibly frustrating for the gymnasts because they've worked so hard to achieve a certain skill level. And it feels like you have to start all over again and kind of relearn your skills with your new body.
Yep.
Now that doesn't even include all of the kind of emotional pieces that come with my leotard fits differently. Suddenly I'm a size, whatever. I mean, these gymnasts are not wearing much when they're in the gym because they're gymnasts and they're in leotards, and it's hard when their bodies start changing and they start feeling self-conscious. So watch out, parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. I would say that the best thing we can do for them as parents is just support them through the process. Like, is this something that you still love to do? Teach them how to love themselves, teach them how to love their bodies, really body positive focused. And be on the lookout for like little comments from either your athletes or their coaches that maybe don't seem right or feel right. And don't be afraid to come forward and say, I don't feel that wasn't appropriate, and be an advocate for your child.
Definitely.
Because it's hard. It's a tough time. Yeah. I mean, we have 4 really strong core values that we stand by in our program: caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility. And so when I see that any of the parents are not upholding those values, it's really easy for me to just sit down with them and say, hey, listen, we're noticing that you're not being very respectful here. And, or, you know, your behavior doing X, Y, and Z is showing me that you're not being honest with yourself or caring about our program, depending on the situation. And, and I just drive home the point that we work very hard to uphold these core values every day. Everybody that works here, everybody that's involved in the program, we are all held to the same values. And so if you feel as though these values are not in line with yours, then feel free to find another gym. Or I would kindly ask you to never return to our space if you're going to behave that way.
Yep.
And so it's tough, but really what you're doing is you're defending your program, you're protecting your program and your kids and your parents and all the people that are doing it right.
Yeah.
All the people that are putting energy into doing the right thing, even when it's the hard thing to do. You're protecting those folks, and that is gold. I mean, that is so important. So that one cancer, gotta let them go.
Yep.
And they'll probably leave kicking and screaming, and that's okay.
Yeah.
At least they won't be kicking and screaming in your gym anymore.